Hi, Renee.
Hi.
We're here with Renee today, who's working on a linoleum block print. There are many types of printmaking, from stamping to silk screening to wood block. Can you show us your sketch?
And then this one's a more simplified version of this.
What was it about this drawing that, as opposed to some of the other ones, that made you decide you were going to use that?
It was probably easier to carve out because it doesn't have so much shading and stuff on it, so you can see where the lines are, so that way when you use the blade you can see what you're doing.
It can't be too complicated
Yes.
of a drawing.
Yeah.
Sometimes simple is better. Were there any challenges involved in carving it?
Well, I had to be careful not to carve too much because the size of the blade allows you to control that, and I had to for these make more semicircles and stuff for the chairs. So that was kind of challenging, but I had to manipulate the blade in order to carve those out.
So Renee, can you demonstrate using the linoleum cutting tool?
Yes.
Notice that she's carving away from her fingers, not towards them, because this is a really sharp tool. Can you show some of the curves that you made maybe in your design?
Yeah.
And
Go like that.
yeah.
And you just kind of can go over it more or less times depending on how deep you want it to go.
Is it pretty easy to cut?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. So if you want to switch blades, each blade has a number on it. This is a number 2, and the width of your cut is indicated by the size of the blade. If you wanted some finer detail, you might want to use a number 1, and you can see inside of there's a place to put the blade, and then you just tighten this back. You want to make sure it's in there nice and tight before you start carving with it. And again, you don't want to carve towards your fingers, you want to carve away. So sometimes that might mean turning your block so that you don't end up cutting yourself if your blade skips a beat. Also, just so you know, the extra blades are kept inside. So we have size 1 here, you can see, is a little bit thinner than the size that Renee was using, the number 2. And then we go all the way up to a 4 or a 5 in width so that you can get a thicker line. So the next step is to choose. Renee selected several different colors of paper that appeal to her for her design, and she's going to select some ink, some speedball block printing ink, and it's a good idea to select your lighter colors and move from light to dark as you're printing. You also need a styrofoam tray, and you're going to put a small amount of ink on there and grab a brayer. The brayer you're going to roll into the ink, and the trick is to get enough ink but not too much. If you have too much ink, you can see that there's still some parts that you need to have a sticky sound. I'm going to go back and forth. You can see from the texture of the ink here too. It's almost like an alligator skin pattern. You can hear that sticky sound. You know you're ready to print when you hear that. Okay. So Renee's going to now roll her linoleum block on the newspaper so it doesn't get onto her paper. And you want to make sure, so everywhere you carved away does not get ink. And you can see the higher level. You want to make sure you cover everything. That looks great. And then be careful to line it up as you want it on your paper. and then to press down evenly. You can even use this tool to press down and make sure that you've applied even pressure to the entire linoleum block. Before moving the whole thing, you can even peel back a corner of it and check to see if your ink is showing up. I can't wait to see it, Renee. Let's see how it turned out. Wow, awesome. So Andy Warhol's Marilyn Monroe's is a great example, or Andy Warhol's Campbell's soup cans come in all different colors because they were silkscreen prints. A little variety to the color by mixing colors with the brayer. And as you may recall, pink and blue mixed together give you a violet. So let's see how a print turns out when you print it with a little pink and purple. Whoa. So you're using the edge of the last print as a registration mark, which tells you, and here you're using the Baron tool to make sure that you press down. People often use a wooden spoon in the back. Ooh.
That looks really cool.
Notice that the pink was on the left, and once you print it, it's on the right. It looks really cool. So Renee's created a lot of work here. She's going to make sure her name and class artist is on every piece in pencil before she puts them in the drying rack so that they don't stick together. So we're headed over to the sink for our cleanup. And Renee's just going to take some water. She's not going to turn it on way too high so it splashes her, but she's going to turn on a little water and wash off her linoleum block. You might decide to use a paper towel to help get some of the color off. It's not going to come completely clean, and that's okay. Don't panic. The ink will stain the linoleum a little bit, but it won't interfere with future prints that you make from your design. Print down on a paper towel to dry. And then you've got to wash your brayer and the knives. You want to make sure you get all the ink off of your brayer. Either using a little sponge or a paper towel might help. The sides too, and make sure that they're clean and free of ink. And when that's clean, you can leave it next to the sink to dry on a paper towel, and that's it.